You're listening to the ESO Network, your station for all things geek.
Let's get spooky. This is our station, Boo, where we explore the dark and mysterious corners of the world of horror, and we know that you are dying to listen. Welcome to the Spooky and Kooky podcast of Earth Station Boo, where we talk all things horror. Introducing our haunted host with the mosty most, we have Lisa.
Hello, Groovy Ghoulies.
We have Karen.
What's up, my Horraholics?
And I'm Shannon. Welcome to this wonderful episode. We are actually going to be talking about the TV series Evil that just recently got canceled, and they've aired their last and final season. So let's get spooky. Hey, Horraholics. It's time for the Ghastly Report. Stay tuned for all the fun, spine-tingling news happening in horror today, from new releases to spooky events and so much more. Alrighty, it is time for the Ghastly Report, where we tell you about all the cool fun things that are happening in the world of horror. So, up first, Lisa, what do you got?
I have this movie that is coming out in mid-April in the USA called The Ugly Stepsister. It will have a debut on Shudder, and it's basically full of the obsession of beauty and lots of body horror. So it looks really, really good. It's kind of a twisted tale on the Cinderella story. I'm looking forward to seeing it.
Rock on, rock on. Karen, what do you got going on?
Saw 11. Okay. So Saw 11 has had an anonymous source saying that is 100% dead to bloody disgusting. However, IMDb still has it showing a late September release date for the film. With Toby Bell, now 81, and reported physical issues in filming the last movie, there is worry about his involvement in this current movie and the unsubstantiated reports of producers arguing.
Yeah.
Can I just say one thing?
Yeah.
Okay. I do love, the soft concept. When they came out with Jigsaw 2017, when they had Matt Passmore revealed himself to be Jigsaw or apprentice of Jigsaw, I was thoroughly happy because I'm like, you know what? They can actually continue the story because, John Kramer died. Now we have a young Jigsaw that could take up his reign. That's beautiful. I love Tobin Bell. However, he 81.
Yeah.
Let that man rest. Let him do other projects that he wants to do.
Yeah. Especially with how much the last film took a toll on him physically. Like, let the series grow. Let the franchise grow.
Right.
And I know all of this is very like, there's no receipts yet. Nothing has been solidified in this, but it's one of those deals of, I'm kind of not mad if it's true, but at the same time, I would love to see the franchise evolve if they can do that.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, use younger apprentices.
Yeah,
that's why he had apprentices.
Yeah. Now, last but not least, South by Southwest has finally concluded, and they had a pretty decent horror lineup this year. So here are about 10 different films to look out for that were shown at South by Southwest. All of these had a lot of rave reviews. So, and this is in no particular order. Okay. We have Clown in the Cornfield by Eli Craig. We have Ash by Flying Lotus. We have In the Ends by Alexander Ulam. And again, I'm sorry if I mispronounce any of these names. Death of a Unicorn by Alex Scarfman. We Bury the Dead by Zach Hilditch. Rideau by Kevin and Matthew McManus. The Home by Mattis J. Skolland. Yeah. Drop by Christopher Landon. Astronaut by Jess Varley. And last but not least, Good Boy by Ben Leonberg.
I want to see that one.
I want to see that one too.
I want to see that one so bad.
A horror movie from the dog's perspective.
Yes.
Like, how can you not? Well, that has been our Ghastly Report. check out one of our sister podcasts on the ESO Network and listen to this new fun episode on the TV show Evil.
What if you could bring 3 experienced producers into your home each week to discuss your favorite movies and the people that made them? That's Tales from Hollywoodland. Your hosts, Arthur, Julian, and Steve, collectively have years of showbiz producing experience. Their weekly show is a fast-paced, fun, and very conversational experience, like spending a good time with your best movie-loving friends and family. Tales from Hollywoodland is available wherever fine podcasts are found. See you at the movies.
Hey Horraholics, it's Shannon. Earth Station Boo has just launched its brand new merch store. It's time to get your hands on some killer gear. From our fun logo shirts, cozy hoodies, Let's Get Spooky stickers, and Horraholics Anonymous totes, there's something for every one of our lovely little ghouls. We offer our spooky designs on many different types of products to fit your desires. But if you happen to see a missed opportunity, just let us know. And unlike most of Stephen King's adaptations, you know what I'm talking about, you won't be disappointed with the quality of the products. Head over to our link tree in our bio, grab your merch, show off your favorite horror podcast, and most of all, let's get spooky.
The TV show Evil it was originally on CBS and then it got picked up by Paramount Plus. It was created and written by Michelle and Robert King. It's kind of an interesting show. You have a priest, a Muslim atheist, and a psychologist who also is kind of on the agnostic atheist side of things. And they try to solve things that get brought up to the Catholic Church. It's an interesting show. So let's dive in and we all get to kind of chit chat about our initial thoughts on this. This is actually a show that got brought to us by Lisa. She recommended the show for us to watch and talk about. So Lisa, you get to start.
Okay, cool. I started watching it and it really was pretty intriguing. It did have a nice flow to it, and you like and hate a lot of the characters. I couldn't stop watching it. I mean, I literally marathon one season a week easily because, I had to, do work around the house, whatever, housework, relax. But no, I think it was written very well. It's definitely got aspects of everything that you'd want in like a little horror miniseries. And also I was a little familiar because I was raised Catholic in the beginning of my life. So I kind of understood a lot of the tropes in there too.
Mm-hmm. Karen, how about you?
When I first heard this series was being, filmed and being promoted, I was really intrigued. I actually got into the first season and part of second season, and then I was like, And then I went into the third season. Went into the fourth season. We'll talk later about that, but I'm gonna say like this show is actually really good, really well written. I do love some of the characters, especially the guy who played Leland. Like I remember him from Person of Interest.
Yeah, Michael Emerson.
But yeah, I was like, you're such a great guy. I like you. And then you see him in here, and you're like, you're a bastard. But yes, so yeah, I actually really I think it was a good story, well written. Kind of sad they only had like 4 seasons, but stuff happens.
Yeah, I was intrigued by this series. It was interesting. I won't say that I loved it, to be honest, but I did find it to be intriguing at times. But we'll get into all the nitty gritty.
Yep.
This episode, we're not going to really like critique the show from a like, did it have good, special effects? Did it have good writing? Did it have all, we're not going to really kind of like get into that stuff because I feel like that's something we kind of do quite a bit. This is a show that did have a lot of really neat, deeper type of topics and tropes and things to discuss. So we're gonna really dive into this episode or into this series. So the series actually often kind of explores psychological trauma and how fear manifests in the mind. And we've talked about how horror is defined by the viewer's perspective. In our second episode, we talked about what is horror. And there's a reason why this show is considered horror. What do we think, or how do we think this series actually handles the horror aspect, especially considering half of the series was done on CBS, where it did have to be okay for most viewing audiences, to the later seasons actually being quite risque, considering you got to see boobs and a lot more gore.
Well, as far as representing horror, answering this right, I think it did really good because it represented a lot of fear from being a very religious person in the Catholic Church, because they talk about all this. I liked how you were afraid of the dark, and it also did a lot of fear with technology, which kind of meshed into the whole thing. I think it was very well represented. I mean, I thought it did a really good job. There were some parts where I was like, I didn't want to watch it by myself, and very rarely do I ever get freaked out. So I think it represents very well.
Okay.
For me, it did represent horror really well. I mean, I enjoyed what was going on in the story. I don't scare easily. The only thing it had, like, I didn't much care for was the sleep paralysis demon, because my demon doesn't talk to me. I mean, I would love to have a conversation with my demon. But no, my demon just kind of like, looks at me and then tries to sit on my chest to suffocate me. Like, I think most demons do. So I was like, she has a great demon there. I want to have a conversation. I want to talk about life.
So you would love to have George as your demon.
Yeah. Say, hey, let's talk about life. Let's talk about the politics, man. But how did they integrated, like, fear of religion, fear of technology, psychological trauma, and present it, with a horror perspective was really well done. They handled it really well.
Yeah. I think they actually did the horror side of it all really well, especially considering the split on some of it had to be for like most audiences to this could be a little bit more risque because you have to pay for it. I think they showed real fear for people. And like we've said, like fear or horror is a person's perspective. And, what one person finds horrifying is not what somebody else finds horrifying. There's a lot of people who find religious things to be on the horrifying side. But I also like the fact that it wasn't just Catholic fear. They did bring in like the jinn and a few other elements that were not Catholic based, even though they called the Catholic Church to come in and help take care of some of these things. But they really did hone in on bringing the fear in and trying to like really like establish there is evil in the world and here it is. It's on a platter for you to look at. And let's highlight it. Let's really like, put it out there. I know for me personally, I find things that could be a little bit more real to be more horrifying and something that might actually keep me going, do I need to leave the lights on tonight? And so I think they did a good job with that, where it was very much like that kind of shocked me a little bit. There was a few jump scares where I kind of was like, taken back a little bit. Evil presents various forms of malevolence, from supernatural entities to human moral corruption. We have the whole gamut from just supernatural bad to just somebody's a dick of a human being. Do you think the show defines evil, or does it kind of leave it still up in the air for everybody? Does it show it as like an external force, an internal force or flaw, or maybe even a combination of both? Karen, what do you think?
For me, evil is a combination of both. because people struggle, internally with their moral compass. Like, what am I doing? Is it a good thing or is it a bad thing? Especially that episode with that little boy who threw his baby sister into the water.
Oh,
So it's not, it's something internal for him. As the old saying goes, sociopaths are born, psychopaths are made. And that boy was clearly a sociopath.
Yeah.
And then you have the, external evils that happen throughout the show due to people's greed, especially with the
DF influence.
yeah, for the majority of it, they balance each other out. I go back to that serial killer who killed all those boys and then try to blame his wife. So that was like an internal and external evil right there, because she thinks she did it, or a guy named Harold did it, but he's playing on her fears, her mental illness to get away with his murder. So it handles it very well. Some shows will have like an unbalance of internal external, but this one did it really well because of the fact that they did have a psychiatrist, or was she a psychiatrist or a social?
She was a psychologist, and then
okay.
Yeah, she was a psychologist, and then her psychiatrist was also kind of involved in a little bit.
So you have those two dealing with the mental illness aspect, and then you have the church dealing with the possession aspect, even though possession could be described as a mental illness depending on who you talk to. So for me, the show handled it very well. I wish there was I wish more shows will take note from this and have a balance between internal and external evil.
Okay.
I would agree with Karen 100%. It does show the internal and the external and a nice balance. It also explains how evil can evolve, and you never exactly know where it's coming from because it changes constantly. And I kind of like the way that the show represented that.
Yeah.
Because you're like, oh, this is, and then they, like, the mother, for example, you thought she was great, and then she turned totally evil, and it's like, oh, well, I wasn't expecting that.
Yeah.
So it's just kind of really cool the way it represented the balance of external and internal evil and how it evolves for different people, and psychologically as well as physically.
Yeah. I honestly think the show really showed that it is both, that we all may have like a seed of evil in us. Some it's a way bigger seed than others, but then there is a lot of outside influence that affects us and changes us. I think they did a really good job showing it being not just individuals in our life who help us make poor decisions, to it even being the algorithm and corporate influence and all that kind of stuff. I think they did a really good job showing that evil is all around, and you never know where it's going to come from. It could come from the person that you love most dear.
Yeah.
And I was just like, okay, this is like good on them. Really like going in and kind of going no holds bar on where evil can come from.
Yeah.
I thought that was kind of cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, especially like that one little story arc with the incel.
Yep.
That poor kid did not, stand a chance against Leland. He did not.
Oh, he didn't.
No.
So when I started watching this, because it was on my like to watch list, but it wasn't something I was like in any rush to watch, until Lisa was like, hey, we have to watch this. And I was like, okay, fine. I'll go ahead and watch it. I was talking to my mom about it, and she's like, so what is it like? And I'm like, it's kind of like X-Files, but if it was based in religion and not aliens. And she's like, okay. And so, I was like, I'm like, no, there's like a lot of like supernatural things that happen. And one of the main tasks of our three main characters, so David, Kristen, and Ben, is to basically suss out whether or not it actually is supernatural or if it is not supernatural. I go, so they go in and you have Kristen and Ben who aren't believers, who are going in and looking at it from a secular view of like, well, this scientific thing could happen, or this could be a psychological issue. And they're throwing out all these things. And then you have Mike, or I'm sorry, David, who's like, y'all, it's a demon.
It's not always a demon, dude.
I kind of had fun trying to like describe it to her. But how does this, like, you have a believer, you have a non-believer, this duality enhance the suspense? And do you guys prefer the episodes that leave the answer kind of ambiguous of whether or not it was supernatural or if it was something that can be proven with science and psychology?
I did like the way the characters worked together to determine whether it was supernatural or not supernatural.
Mm-hmm.
I thought they were, as actors, they worked very well as a team, and that made their characters more believable and how much you liked them or didn't like them as much.
Yeah.
That was one of my favorites, 100%. And I kind of like some of the ambiguous episodes because it's like, yeah, but maybe, but it could be either. And I'm not much for that sometimes. Sometimes I like to solve the crime, but the way they laid it out, it really wasn't that bad. It was actually kind of cool, made you think, which I really liked about it because it could be anything.
Yeah.
I like the whole X-File-esque feel to it, where you have, your non-believers trying to prove that it's not what it is. And then you have your believer, like aliens. Instead of aliens, it's humans and evil and all that. I actually really like that whole dynamic that they have. And then you have like that technological expert. Like, I've seen it all. I don't care. I'm just here to like make money. I'm like, dang, Ben, at least you're honest about it.
Right.
But for me, I like, a definite answer, because that means I don't have to revisit the storyline again. Because sometimes the storylines are like, we're going to go for a second one, aren't we? It's going to keep on going. All right. So like, I like have a an ending for me. Like, oh, we don't have to visit that storyline again. So we have an end. Yay. But I know this is a series. You're going to have ambiguous endings because you're either going to revisit it or not revisit it.
Yeah.
I'd rather not revisit it.
I love the fact that it was kind of like an X-Files-esque thing where, you had the believers, you even have like, the sister who was constantly helping. She was a gem. I absolutely loved her.
Oh, yeah.
But I think having multiple points of view on the scenarios was great. I think it was great for the dynamics of everything. And I actually kind of liked the ambiguous ones. And by ambiguous for me, it was even the ones where like we knew the answer because we, as an audience, got to see things that the characters themselves didn't get to see. But I even like the ones where like for them, it was ambiguous. For like the characters where they were like, we don't know if this was supernatural or not. Like everybody has an answer, but none of it was solidified as an answer. And I loved that. I loved that, even Kristen and Ben, being the skeptics that they were, constantly had to rethink and possibly even question their disbelief in moments where they're like, maybe this really is real. So I kind of dug it. From AI, surveillance, video games, the show frequently incorporates modern technology as a tool or a source of the horror. How does this contemporary, or this commentary, I guess, on technology and the morality kind of resonate with today's audience? And do we think that this might be the next subgenre of horror?
Okay. So, yes, Megan. There you go.
Yeah.
Terminator. There you go. Yes. Technology is like horrific in the fact that we try to put limitations on it, but because technology grows so fast and we do not understand it as quickly as we should, it's hard to put limitations on it. So technology will grow. AI will grow on its own. I've seen like those little AI robots that they, talk to, and sometimes the AI robot's like,
yeah.
It's like, really? Did that robot just roll its eyes? Because it's sick of you. It's really sick of you.
The little dogs in the show are real robots. Like,
yeah.
And
so it's like the whole with the surveillance and whatnot. It's like the whole Big Brother scare, like they're watching us, and it's like,
Mm-hmm.
yeah. So this whole archetype or trope of horror is going to get explored more.
Oh
You
yeah.
know, as technology grows, it's going to get explored more.
I think it
So
might actually become the next like era.
yeah, I mean, we already have Megan 2 in the works.
Mm-hmm. Which is creepy looking.
I mean, like after Megan, they made that movie AI.
Mm,
Yeah,
That didn't do so well in theaters.
but it was
yeah.
creepy.
It was creepy, but they do so well. I mean, they redid Chucky as an
Mm-hmm.
AI, so it is technology is horrific in itself,
Yeah.
and they did really well to play on people's fears of what technology can do.
Yeah.
Yeah, I definitely agree. Especially with like the virtual reality games and everything that they were playing with. That was
Yeah.
just creepy right there. I mean, I wouldn't play it because if there's this thing right there in front of me, I already fell off a couch when I was playing one and I saw a T-Rex to my side. So yeah, it is scary because AI does grow, technology does grow, and we can't really keep up with it sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
Terminator, Megan, and that movie AI that she referenced. Yeah, I saw it. I saw it a couple nights ago. It was creepy because
Yeah.
literally it could just take over your whole system and you can't do anything about it.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, I think it's going to be a future trope for the horror, and I'd love to see them redo Demon Seed from the 70s because that's about a smart house. And I
Yeah.
remember when it came out. So I would love to see that happen
I mean, it's
because that
essentially Hal from,
yeah, yeah, exactly. So yeah, I think it's definitely going to be a future trope.
yeah, modern technology. I like how they framed it as it's not necessarily that modern technology is evil, but it's what people do with it that's evil.
Oh yeah,
And
Yeah.
it like you even Ben, who was the tech junkie who loves new technology, who all that kind of stuff is like, no, you have to do it right. You have to do it the correct way. Otherwise it's a no-go. And so I think it played on a lot of the stuff that we as humans connect with. Like for the longest time, I wouldn't do the Apple AirPods and the earpod type things simply because I'm like, this is how you get Cybermen. As a Whovian, I'm like, no, this is how you get Cybermen. They did a whole episode on this. Come on, guys. You know, AI, that there's not enough regulation with it for me to feel comfortable just using it willy-nilly. There's just there's a lot for us to be skeptical of. And because this is something that eons ago people were saying, hey, be mindful of this. This could be something, they're already writing horror stories about it from decades ago. But I think it's a real fear that we should be mindful of. But I think it's a real fear of anything where you give too much power to something and it takes advantage of said power. So let's kind of wrap everything up. We'll do some final thoughts and everything. These final thoughts, I think we'll keep them a little bit longer than we normally do. Usually our final thoughts are kind of short and sweet. I want us to really dive into what we really loved about the show, what we didn't really like about the show, and everything in between. And then we'll give it our ratings. So, Lisa, have at it.
Okay, I love the storyline. The characters were great. I loved Leland. He was just a little bastard. He just the way he was trying to outsmart everybody, and I love the fact that her girls could outsmart him. That was hilarious. That was great.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, no matter what he did, yeah, I love the dynamics of the three. Ben and them just trying to figure out what it is.
Mm-hmm.
I like the fact that they use some technology as well as some dark supernatural thing. I love the gym stuff. They got that pretty good.
They did.
They got the mythology about the gym pretty good. I liked the fact that it was all practical
Mm-hmm.
special effects, and the one guy played most of the monsters. I
Yeah.
thought that was pretty cool.
Yeah, that was actually really cool.
I love the nun. I loved her to death. She did a great job. Fantastic.
Andrea Martin, we gotta love that lady.
Yeah, I love her. I thought it was great that she had told them that she didn't want to virtually, she wanted to fight the monster and actually was working with the actor. And I thought that was great. There's so much about this series that I like. I did feel some of the ambiguous and were left like some of the ambiguous were good, but some of the ambiguous were not good. Like with Lynn, when she had the tail in the mirror, and I'm like, okay, she's going to turn into a demon or something because she came from that fertility clinic. And then all of a sudden they just stopped her story.
Yeah.
And I was kind of not happy with that. There were a couple other things that I was not happy with, like the girl that Ben was seeing before, the crazy one who thought she was Jesus, the twin girl,
the bipolar one.
Yeah, because I didn't know if it was twins and one was still alive or what. That was kind of cool, but it was a little irritating because she wasn't in there as much as I wanted her to be because I liked her. And I will say, the last episode, I wasn't happy the way it ended. I think it felt rushed.
I mean, it was.
I really did. I know they had to cancel the show, which kind of stunk.
Yeah, I think
it was the last episode. I thought it'd be
no. What I'm saying is, like, I think like the last like 4 or 5 episodes were written after they found out they got canceled.
Yeah, it just felt rushed. I mean, I'm glad they did to Leland what they did to Leland, but I was kind of hoping they would have rounded the ending a little bit better. Other than that, I think it's a great TV show. I definitely suggest it for people, and I give it a 4.5.
4.5? Okay. Karen, how about you?
I really, I enjoyed the show for what it is. There were some storylines I was kind of like, really? Like the whole fertility storyline. And they're all like, some of them are her kids. And I'm like, what? Huh? See, I understand, some of the fertility doctors using their own sperm to like, fertilize the eggs. But taking a woman's eggs and using them to put in somebody else?
Yeah.
I know it can happen, but at the same time,
it does happen.
How many eggs did she give them? How many eggs did they harvest?
She had 12. So technically 13 because she had Alexis, who was the one that was from IVF. And then she had 12 eggs stored. And then one got used.
And I was like, well, actually, didn't two? Well, there's something wrong with like the whole fertility aspect because, they were like some sort of front, whatever. I don't care. I did not like that storyline. I did not like that storyline. Other storylines I really, enjoyed. Most of the part I liked was like the whole psychological aspect where she gets to like, her and her psychiatrist come out and be like, this is what's happening. She has schizophrenia or this is this. It's like, I like how they can easily explain it because, some of these symptoms can be easily explained with mental illness. Some of them can't. The whole thing with Cheryl, if my mama went behind my back, she kind of got what she deserved. But my mama went behind my back. These hands would be thrown to everybody.
Yeah.
And Leland ain't gonna come back from it. I don't care who's on your side. The devil will be like, oh, you made her mad. I can't help you, man. Bye. The last season, it did feel really rushed. But I know, because when they announced they're being canceled, you have to wrap it up.
Yeah.
Because you don't want to leave on a cliffhanger. Like some series were left on cliffhangers and I'm mad about. Firefly. But at least I got a movie out of it. Legion. Yeah, there was a lot of stories. There was a lot of shows that I liked. I mean, yeah, it was kind of disappointed. I wish they could go one more season to actually all wrap it all up instead of rushing it. But it is what it is. I actually will give it 4.0. I wanted a little bit more of I wanted more of that virtual reality. I want them to dive into that virtual reality. Instead of having the kids do it, have other, players oh, let's go to this, see what's going. Oh God,
that science club.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Have different people experience not just that horror game, but say if it's a nice fun game and then you see this person, you're like, oh, and then they bring you out into the real world, and you'll meet them, and it's a demon in disguise. But yeah, Cheryl, okay. Well, I'm sorry, you don't go behind your daughter's back.
Yeah.
She told you.
I found the first season extremely frustrating to watch. I had a really hard time getting into the show. I think the show probably could have done a whole lot better had it been on a platform where they could have done what they were doing in the later seasons from the beginning. I just had a really hard time getting into it until it was like later in, and even then I don't know, this just was not a show I could really get into. I wanted to. It was one of those shows where I'm like, man, I really wish this show I could get into it. Kristen annoyed me the entire time. Cheryl, I wanted to root for her.
You did.
So badly. And there were moments, especially in the final season, where I was like, ooh, she's gonna like turn around and it's gonna be this whole like, I'm taking down this entire thing from the inside. And I was like, yes, do that. Like, do it. Come on. And she kept not. And like there was no reason for her to have stopped herself, but she kept stopping herself. And I'm like, why? Why does she keep stopping herself? She's like, don't fuck with my grandkids, but yet she still lets the bastard live. Like, come on. But like, no, it just doesn't make any sense. I agree about Alexis, like, doing the whole thing where she had a tail, but then like never really talking about it again, except for like weird random times where she talks to her grandma. Honestly, I hated Andy. I hated his whole like being there. I was very much like why kill off this character? He's not in it enough to actually be influential. He just brings like a show down. Like he doesn't add anything to any of his scenes. Like as a character, he was redundant. And like I was like, come on, shoo, get rid of him. I wish that there was a lot of things that I wish they did more of, like the entity stuff. I really wish that they would have like gone a little bit deeper with that. Ben's, basically science camp club thing that he had with all those people and his sister. I wish they would have done more of that or had more of those people involved in like trying to recreate things or whatever, and not just having them pop up as like storylines, like the girl who thought she was Jesus.
Side quests. There were side quests.
Yeah, or like the one girl who worked for like the company that created the dog robot things. Like it's like, okay, cool. Like that you're giving a reason why they know each other, but you're not like show him trying out experiments in there and somebody going, well, hey, have you tried this? And him going, no, I did not. And then like, doing more. I don't know. It just like I wish there would have been more on that kind of side of everything. And I don't know, there was just constantly I feel like that could have been done better. I think they nailed it with the practical effects. The costuming. I think Marty was the guy who did a lot of like the costume demon work. The woman who played Kristen, she's like, he was awesome. I loved working with him. He was so nice. And I thought that was great. Like that they had practical effects and they just really went at it and had fun with it. Like even like the little like grief demon was a real puppet that they worked with.
That was cool.
That was cool. I liked the idea of a lot of the things that they did. I just don't think the writing was executed the best. But I think the lighting was also pretty cool. They did a lot of like dark lighting, but then like I liked how a lot of things were shot from low and you could see a lot of the ceiling. There's like a lot of space awareness. I thought that was kind of cool. I think like cinematography wise, it was done really, really well.
I mean, yeah, I would have to agree with that. Yeah, cinematography wise.
I definitely agree with that. The cinematography was great.
And especially like at the, like, again, like the final like few seasons when they were with Paramount Plus and they were able to do so much more. I'm like, man, I wish they could have done all that back from like the beginning, and then like I don't know. I feel like there's just like a lot of stuff that it just could have been done better. But overall, it wasn't a horrible show. And there's a lot of like little things that I liked, like the X-Files aspects of it. I did like the chemistry between like the three main characters, which in the same interview where they were she was talking about her working with the demon guy, they explained that they hung out all the time, even though a lot of their show was filmed during COVID times. They're like, because we were on set so close together, we could kind of hang out together because we were kind of stuck together.
The bubble.
Yeah, so they did a lot of hanging out and spending time with each other outside of filming. And I think you can really see that in the chemistry that they have on screen.
Especially the sexual chemistry between Kristen and David.
Right? Right.
I'm like, give me some of that.
I'm probably going to give this a 3.75. It's not quite a 4 for me personally, and it's just because I had a really hard time getting into it. But I can see why a lot of people like it, and it had a lot of potential. I actually do wish it would have continued because I think they could have done better with the ending. I think the ending was very, very rushed, but considering like knowing what we know now, I think they did a decent job wrapping it up.
Yeah, I would agree
with how short notice that they had.
Just a little side note, I would have chose David over her husband.
Mm-hmm.
It's Luke Cage, man. Come on, it's Luke Cage.
Yeah. Oh my God, yeah. Instantly. And honestly, that was one of the reasons why I kind of didn't like the husband, because it was like he's supposed to be like the temptation on both sides and this whole thing, but like you basically had her playing a single mom the entire series. What the fuck was the point of Andy?
Yeah, like
he comes in for like 2 or 3 episodes a season, and basically every time he's there, he just fucks shit up.
Yeah,
I feel like he's a very selfish character, and
yeah,
it reminds me of one of my exes. That's why I didn't like him. So it's just, yeah, he does fuck shit up. And then when she needs his support, he's always whining about her job and why she shouldn't do it and she should do this. But yet all he wanted to do was just use her.
See, they would have been better if all the 3 of them were in the house with the girls. They could have taken care of the girls all together and do their X-Files stuff.
Mm-hmm.
I've been happy with that.
Yeah, and like even Andy's story, none of it made sense. Like at first, okay, they have a company, he climbs, and it's overseas. Okay, kind of okay, whatever. Weird that you're like making her essentially a single mom, but okay. But then like they bring him back just to get rid of him again, to then like almost kill off the character, but then they bring him back again, and then they ship him off because he's got a drug problem, and then he cheats on her and leaves her.
At that point, Leland would have been a better father.
I'm like,
yeah,
Leland would have been a better father.
It just
like, you're an evil bastard, but
I was like, what is the point of this character? What is the point? He doesn't add anything. If anything, he just fucks things up. And it's not even like it propels the story along, fucks things up. Like everything that he did could have been done by a different character.
Yep.
True.
I agree.
Everything he did could have been done by a different character. He was pointless. Absolutely pointless. And Leland, Leland. I hate guys like Leland.
You know what? At least he was there. She saw him every day. At this point, I'm like,
yeah,
you saw him more than you see your husband.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I hate men like Leland. Because we've all met a man just like him.
Leland, yes.
Yes. Yeah.
And I'm not saying that like an actual demon or whatever. I mean like annoying little gnat human beings who all they are there for is just to ruin
fun
your
time.
life. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I was like, good job. You guys wrote him really well. But our lovely little ghouls, do you agree? Do you not agree? If the show continued, what would you have wanted to see? Come, tell us on our social media where we can continue this conversation. We're on Instagram, TikTok, X, Threads. Our Facebook group is always a hippity hoppeting. And if you're not in there, why not? I just don't understand. Plus, you can subscribe and rate us wherever you listen to podcasts, such as Apple, Google, Spotify, and YouTube. So, ladies, where can they find you? Lisa?
You can find me on Facebook, Instagram, Threads. That's what you can find me on right now.
All right, rock on. Karen, where can they find you?
Facebook, Instagram, Threads, X, formerly known as Twitter, TikTok, and Reddit.
I am on all the things at Spill Tea Wine Media Mind. But before we go, as always, thank you so much for coming and listening to our show. We really do appreciate it. You guys joining us absolutely means the world. We can't tell you how much we appreciate your support. So stay spooky, our lovely little ghouls.
And this has been the Spooky and Kooky podcast of Earth Station Boo.
This has been a broadcast of the ESO Network. Be part of the crew and help support our shows by donating to our ESO Patreon or by shopping at the TeePublic store, which can all be found at www.esonetwork.com. The ESO Network, your station for all things geek.